Hey everyone, welcome to Danny Chats. This is episode number 22, and today I'm joined by Linda. Linda is from Canada, and she could possibly be one of the oldest surviving Wilson's disease patients around. So we're going to have a little chat, and I want to find out about Linda's story. Hi Linda, how are you?
Hi, fine. How are you, Danny? Thank you for asking me.
That's okay. I'm very good, thank you. So how old are you, Linda?
Oh, I'm 72.
Sorry to jump straight in with that question.
Well, I'm really pleased to be 72. I never thought I'd make it.
Yeah, you look very, very good for 72.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So
And how old are you, Danny? How old are you?
I'm 35 now.
Okay, so half of me.
Yeah. So how did your Wilson's disease journey start?
Oh, well, it started before we even knew that it was Wilson's, like with other patients. I think the first evidence was what they diagnosed as hepatitis. When I was in university, I suddenly blew up. I was retaining water. I turned yellow. My eyeballs were yellow. And they didn't know anything about Wilson's at that time. So I was hospitalized. And then with rest, I recuperated and I was able to go back to school. And I was living in Chicago at the time when I had what was supposed to be hepatitis. Then I married my husband in Alberta, and that was in 1972. And the first year that I was there, I started to develop tremors. And it was interesting because I was doing ceramics in a very small studio in a northern town in Alberta. And I was very lucky because my ceramics teacher noticed the tremor. And she said, this is not normal for someone your age. I would get it checked. And so started my journey. I went from West Coast in Vancouver to Alberta to Ontario to Montreal, trying to find out what this tremor was caused by. And it took about a year and a half before I was hospitalized in London, Ontario. And my husband was working on a degree, a master's degree in library science there. And luckily, I met a woman doctor who looked at me and she said, this is not normal. And she said, I'm going to hospitalize you and we're going to get to the bottom of this. And the tremors, of course, were getting worse, and I was having trouble walking and speaking. And it's very similar to everyone else's story who was in their early 20s. And I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and they were ready to send me home and just say, well, it's culture shock. You move from Chicago to Alberta to Ontario. You've been moving around a lot, But they said, we want to do one final thing before we send you home, and we want to look at your eyes. Oh. And so they sent me to the ophthalmologist, and they found the copper rings.
Yeah.
And in those days, things were more simple. There was no genetic testing. There was no delay. They diagnosed me right on the spot and started me on the medication. And so that was really very dramatic. It was very, very dramatic.
Yeah.
It was famous. This is in 1972. No, I would say 1974. They hadn't found many patients with Wilson's disease, and I was the talk of the town. So
I can imagine.
It was really exciting. I was a movie star.
Yeah. Did they say why they finally sort of thought about checking for it? Was there any for me, somebody turned up at the hospital that was there for their yearly check for Wilson's disease, and the doctors clicked, and because they had tested me for everything apart from Wilson's disease. Yeah.
Oh.
So I mean,
why did they decide to look at your eyes?
Well, like I say, somebody came to my hospital. They said to my parents, your son's probably got 2 or 3 days left to live, and if we can't find out what it is, then there's nothing we can do. And luckily, somebody came to that hospital for their yearly checkup. And while the doctors were talking to them, it clicked in their head that I hadn't been tested for Wilson's. So they tested me, and I was diagnosed, and I got sent straight to London.
Oh, and how old were you at the time?
I was 14.
Oh, so it was very early.
Yeah, very early.
Oh boy, it's very dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so it's great that they found it. And what medication did they put you on then?
well, they put me. All they had in those days was the ball and cupramine, or the penicillamine. We call
Yeah.
it cupramine here. And Danny, I've been on that for 47 years, and it served me well. And I've met doctors who have said, "Don't go off it." I don't know if I've had side effects, but if they are side effects of penicillin, we wouldn't know.
No.
Because at my age, you don't know. I mean, you can have anything. So I just keep trudging along.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I say, you're looking incredibly healthy and you're doing well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm working hard.
You mentioned you're still very active.
Well, my husband makes me exercise with him 1 hour every day.
Oh, really?
And if I don't exercise, I never hear the end of it, so I do it.
Yeah, it's good for you though, obviously.
Yeah, it is, but I hate exercising.
Yeah.
He used to swim before COVID, so he would go for an hour and swim every day. We have a pool in our building, and
Nice.
now he doesn't go into the pool, so we do our aerobics and I lift weights, Danny. I lift a pound weight.
That's good.
1 pound weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope to have another 20 years. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think you will. Definitely.
Yeah.
So how did you, after you were diagnosed and everything, what happened then when you were on the medication?
Okay, so I started the medication and the doctors were so wonderful. I was so lucky to be in Canada because I had grown up in Chicago in the US, and we never would have been able to afford the hospitalization and the diagnosis and the treatment if I had been in the US.
Yeah.
So, so immigrating was a good thing. So they provided me with, actually the medication was covered by my Blue Cross plan. We had insurance. My husband got that through, I don't know where he got it from, but he was looking after all of that. And the doctor said, you should be okay within a year, you should be back to normal. And the prediction was right. I followed the regime, and it was amazing. I started working again, and I went back to school, and I got my education degree. And then I couldn't find a job teaching in those days. There were too many teachers. So I went into computers, and I did hotline and quality control. And I worked in computers for 13 years.
Yeah.
And I stopped thinking about Wilson's disease. And I didn't want it to define me. I didn't want, I kind of hid it more than anything because I found that people, I don't know if people in England want to listen to your story, but Canadians don't want to listen to a long story. And with Wilson's disease, it's a long story. Yeah. So I just never really told many people about it. And even if I did tell someone about it, they couldn't believe it. Like what? Copper, what is copper? And, this is nothing. I've never heard of it. So and so I went for almost 30 years, and then I went into teaching, and I started teaching English as a second language for 25 years. And I didn't think about it. I went in for my prescription every year. I wasn't followed up with ultrasounds for 30 years.
Wow. And
then finally what happened was they took the cupramine or the penicillamine off the market. They changed the label, and I wasn't able to get it. So I panicked, I freaked out, and I told my GP, who was giving me the prescription every year. I finally realized that it was the it was a liver disease. In my mind, it was always neurological, but I wasn't thinking about it very much. And I finally, so when I couldn't get the medication, I said to my GP, I want a follow-up. I said, I want a complete workup. And they sent me to a wonderful gastro, and she did a workup, and she found out that my spleen, I had a splenic aneurysm, and I needed to have my spleen removed. She said, you've got to have your spleen removed. And I said, well, what happens if I don't? And she said, well, you're not going to live. So they took my spleen out, and then I started being followed every 6 months with the ultrasounds and the Everything.
Yeah.
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 So now I have Wilson's disease, NMA splenic, and let's see, what else do I have? I got septic from my kidneys. And everything, but now everything seems to be fine.
You're holding it all together.
I'm really better without the spleen, Danny, because when I had the spleen, I used to get terrible colds. My body would overreact to everything. And when they took my spleen out, that was in 2013, I got healthier.
Yeah.
So who can explain what is happening?
Toxins.
Yeah.
I remember from having the ultrasound scans myself, like my spleen and my liver were enlarged.
Oh, really?
So like they were, they're hidden behind the ribs generally, but
Right.
mine were poking out below the ribs. So they told me sort of as a child, once they found this, to avoid contact sports and stuff like that in case I got, because you could get a ruptured spleen, obviously.
Oh, yeah. But your spleen is okay. You still have it.
Yeah, I still have it. And funnily enough, it would be interesting to know now, because I've got the new liver, whether the spleen's gone back to a normal size. That's not something I've thought about.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Have you had any problems with the medicine? The rejection of the
no, I've been very, very lucky. Very
great.
lucky.
Well, we are survivors. Do you find people, are interested in your long story, or do they just?
Funnily enough, it kind of ties back into what we were talking about before this podcast when you said, how long have I been talking about Wilson's disease? And I said I hadn't really talked about it up until now. And I think there's kind of the same reasons as you really is, one, you don't want it to define you as a person. Two, it's a really long story. So you kind of just don't talk about it so much. But I found that obviously, but doing this and talking to people, I kind of wish I had this resource when I was younger, to see all the different people that have got Wilson's, to see how they're doing. Because obviously when you're diagnosed, you don't know what the future holds, do you?
Right, that's right. Yeah, and you're always expecting, things to not work out.
Yeah, especially early days after you've just come out of hospital, and you've been very ill.
I'm 72. I think I'm going to outlive everyone. I already have. I have cousins who've already died before me at younger ages. So I tend to think, I've done pretty well.
Was it something that they mentioned to you? Sorry, was it something that they mentioned to you when you were at the hospital, like a life expectancy? Because like you said, they didn't really know much about it. I suppose they might have just given you the meds and said,
no, they were wonderful. There was amazingly enough, they sent me to Sick Children's Hospital in Toronto, where there was a doctor. He was Hungarian, or he was from one of the Eastern Bloc countries. And he said, if you stay away from alcohol, and he said, if you eat, properly, and you take your medication, you should live a long life. And so I took him seriously. I never drank. I followed the diet and was able, thank God, because of Canada and the way I should write a book called Canada Loves Me, because Canada has saved my life so many times. We haven't had to pay for it. And his prediction, I took it as, the gospel, and it turned out to be a valid prediction. So here I am, 72. I've lived longer than many of my peers, and hoping to go for another 20 years.
That's brilliant. That's really good. You mentioned that when you went into hospital, you had quite bad tremors. Did that settle down once you were on the medication?
It did. Yeah, it took about a year to 2 years for the tremors to settle down. And of course, that was a source of embarrassment. I really hated, having people see me shake like that. It was awful. That was really one of the worst parts.
I think that's a side effect that I've developed slightly since my transplant, is tremors.
Why? Why do you think?
I think it's part of the medication side effect, maybe. But luckily, it's not too bad. And, I kind of laugh and joke about it at the moment because, like I said, it's not too bad. But trying to... Does
it affect your ability to do your job?
Not really. If you're using a screw gun or something and you're trying to get the end in, sometimes you wiggle about a bit and it takes a little longer to get it in. But it's a laugh. Or like if you're putting sugar in a tea. You've got to have the cup very close, because otherwise by the time you get it to the cup, you spilt half of it. But
So have you spoken to your doctor about the tremors and if he thinks it's part of the anti-rejection pills?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I say, it's not too bad. It comes and goes, so
Mhm.
it's
Maybe it's stress related if there's a lot of pressure at work, the tremor comes.
well, no, because I noticed it when I was just building home stuff at home and things. When you're putting your furniture together and stuff. But like I say,
Yeah,
it's not anything too bad to worry about.
good. Okay. Do you have good care, like good follow-up there? Or?
Yeah, very, very good. I've been under the same hospital in London since I got diagnosed, and I've been going there for yearly checks. And then they were the ones that were like, right, now's the time you need your transplant. And I really can't fault them at all. Not from start to finish. They've been amazing. King's College Hospital.
Oh, that's amazing. It's wonderful to see you looking so healthy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So when you got all your medication and your life was continuing, what about holidays and things? Is that something you still did?
We used to travel all over. As I said, we were in Europe 7 or 8 times in the 80s.
Yeah.
There was a time when it was cheaper to travel in Europe than North America, so we took advantage of it. And, we've been traveling a lot ever since. Both my husband and I are retired. And with COVID, of course, everything has stopped. And I'm waiting for my vaccination. And maybe then we'll start traveling again, but probably just in the US and Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you? Are you traveling?
Well, the UK is still in like a lockdown at the moment, so we're not even really allowed to leave the country. So,
okay. Yeah.
but I'm literally talking to my friend who lives in Panama. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to book it for February next year.
Are you sure that's a good idea with a liver transplant?
Yeah, we'll be all right.
Oh, well, my doctor said don't go south. You could get hepatitis. Don't go to any of those climates where they have, a lot of things we're not used to up in the north. Why don't you come to Canada instead?
I'll come to Canada afterwards.
Okay.
But the only thing that would have stopped me from going south would have been if I needed the yellow fever vaccine, because as a transplant patient, you're not allowed a live vaccine.
Okay.
So, but Panama's not that far south, so
make sure you buy a Panama hat. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Yeah.
So obviously at the time you were with your husband when this was all, how did he take it all?
Oh, he was fantastic. I mean, really, I have to say I was in the hospital with some ward where there were women with multiple sclerosis and, other neurological diseases, and the husbands couldn't handle it. They just, they bolted, they just abandoned their wives. But my husband was with me every step of the way, and he still is. We're going to be married 49 years on Thursday or Friday of this week.
49 years, that's amazing.
Yeah, I should have him come over and say hello. Paul, come on over and say hello. Here is the hero of my life. Okay. Oh, now he's making a face because he doesn't want to.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, how are you?
Very good, thanks.
Yeah,
Congratulations on your 49 years.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, that's enough.
And well done for keeping Linda nimble and exercised.
Yeah, okay. He's really good at exercise. He loves his exercise. Yeah. So So no, he was wonderful.
Yeah. To go back to before you were diagnosed, like speaking to liver, I keep saying liver transplant. I've been doing too many interviews with transplant patients. To talk to other Wilson's disease patients, I noticed things like nosebleeds and cramps were very common early on.
I had nosebleeds. I had nosebleeds actually the 30 years after I got treated and went back to work. I noticed lots of nosebleeds and bruises, and I think that was because of my spleen. Yeah. Because once they took my spleen out, no nosebleeds, no bruises. I mean, somebody ought to recommend removing every Wilson's patient's spleen because, it was really overreacting to everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, and when I was little, I remember being very uncoordinated, terrible at sports, still am, and also very emotional. I was very, very emotional child. I would get upset, by everything. And I guess that was part of it too,
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of depression that came before I was treated with the penicillin. And yeah, like everyone, like other patients have.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
did you find that any of your friendships changed around the time that you were?
Well, because I left the US for Canada, and it became a problem of making new friends for both of us. So I have to tell you the truth, it's hard to make friends in Canada. Most of our friends are from the US or other countries.
Yeah.
Canadians they have a hard time letting you in, but I do have a good friend now who's Canadian.
That's good.
And yeah.
So what's the best thing about Canada then, do you think?
The healthcare system.
Yeah. See, I would say that about England.
Yeah,
The healthcare system.
I look at I read the posts and how people are struggling to get their medication,
Yeah.
and how much it costs in the US.
Yeah.
If I had been there, I wouldn't be here today, if I had stayed in the US. So yeah, we're both very, very lucky.
Yeah, I believe that every day.
And Canadians, we have a wonderful government, and they've done so much for people during COVID, and I'm just happy to be here. Actually, Danny, my mother was Canadian. She was born in Montreal, and she married my father, who was a U.S. citizen. And when she left Canada, she had 12 brothers and sisters, and she couldn't wait to get out. She thought she was marrying a rich man in the U.S. Didn't turn out that way, but anyways. So she had her children and her life in the U.S., and I kind of reversed the migration. So worked out well for me. My mother was angry that I left the U.S., but I told her over and over again, if I had been in the U.S., with no medical care and support, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's been a ride.
Did you have any family members that were sort of tested, or siblings?
Well, it's funny, Danny. They all got blood tests. There were 5 of us, and they all had blood tests, and the blood test said that I was the only one with Wilson's disease.
Yeah.
But today, and they're all okay now, but I'm wondering why they stopped with just a blood test. Maybe they have, maybe they're asymptomatic, or they weren't followed up very thoroughly, but so far they're all okay. We're a little strange, but we're okay.
I think it's good to be a bit strange.
Yeah, I know.
It's interesting.
Yeah, do you have siblings?
I do, but my parents were the only ones that had me, and then my parents split up, and then I had, so they're kind of like half sisters, I think you called it, stepsisters.
Well, that was probably a good thing, eh? That was probably a good thing that they didn't have another one with, both of those recessive genes.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if they had, because I was caught with it, they would have probably found out earlier with my siblings. But yeah. I like to call myself the special one because I'm the only one.
Yeah, I'm special too. Except that, Danny, we're not so special anymore because the whole world is getting transplants. Everyone has even more exotic and rarer diseases than us. Soon, nobody will bat an eyelash. Yeah.
What did you find? Obviously, because when I was diagnosed, we kind of looked things up on the internet. And the internet was very, very basic when I was diagnosed, so there wasn't much information about. Now, the internet definitely wasn't around when you were diagnosed. So what did you do for information? Or did you
I didn't have any information. It was fine with me. I didn't ask too many questions. Luckily, the cupramine or the penicillin has lots of side effects, and I refused to read about them because that's the only thing I had. Yeah, I was very much similar. I think it was my parents that wanted to know everything, where I was like, listen to the doctors, take the meds that they say, and then that's enough for me. Yeah, even now when something happens, or when I had my spleen out, the surgeon, who was wonderful, he called me into his office and he said, now this is what we're going to do. And he showed me a video of him, him removing his spleen and putting it in a Ziploc bag of all things,
Wow.
and taking it out through my belly button. And he was so proud of it. It was this minimally invasive surgery. And I didn't want to be rude, but I was saying, "Oh, doctor, that is so interesting." And I couldn't look.
Yeah, that's very graphic.
Yeah, it was very graphic, but he did a great job. And,
Yeah. So you say he put it in a bag before he took it out of you?
Yeah, there was laparoscopy. So he made like 3 little holes in my stomach, one on the right, one on the left, and one in my belly button. And he just went in and got it somehow in a bag and pulled it out.
Wow,
and,
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So there's not like a big cut or incision?
No, I had it. They gave me a choice. They said, you can have regular, traditional surgery, which will keep you, laid up for about 6 weeks to 2 months. Or you can have this laparoscopy. So I said, let's go with the laparoscopy. Yeah. And it was wonderful. It was just so amazing.
Was that something quite pioneering back then, that operation?
Well, yeah, everything. I was a pioneer. Yeah, everything they did to me was a pioneer.
Yeah. That's incredible.
It's funny, Danny, because when I go to a doctor now, and I don't have any of the original doctors, they're all, every time I see a doctor, I like a GP for something minor, I'll say, well, you should know that I have Wilson's disease and I have a splenectomy and blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear anything. They just want to treat what's immediate.
Yeah.
And, I find if I try to make them listen, they become more withdrawn. They're all overworked.
Yeah, I had a funny experience. I think shortly after my transplant, or a little while after, a good few months, I had a chest infection and I ended up in hospital. And I was sat in a room with the mask on and I was kind of waiting in between doctors, waiting for treatment. And a doctor came in and he started asking me all sorts of questions about my medical history, about Wilson's disease, about the liver transplant. And then he got to the end of all the questions and I thought he was going to sort of give me some medication I have to take or something like that for the chest infection. And he said, oh, it's okay. The doctor will be along soon. And I said to him, aren't you my doctor? He said, no, I just come in to talk to you because I've never spoke to someone with a liver transplant and Wilson's disease.
Oh. He
was like, I just had questions. Yeah.
And then did the doctor interrogate you as thoroughly as the visitor?
Probably not on my past. No, he wanted to, like you say, he wanted to just treat the chest infection that I had. He knew the medical past, but he didn't have 100 questions like the guy did that came in.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, King's College Hospital is it's a student hospital as well, so you get lots of medical students there. And when I was diagnosed, I was constantly being asked when I was on the ward to go down to the eye surgery room, or not eye surgery, but the eye testing room, and I'd sit there for like an hour, and there would just be queues of these medical students come to look at the rings.
Yeah. I went to our hospital for the rounds as well, but now they don't want to see you. They're not even interested. Yeah. I always offer to go to the rounds. It's old hat. Apparently, they learn about Wilson's disease now in medical school. And as I said, there are more interesting diseases now. Yeah,
it's very interesting. And obviously the man, Dr. Walsh, was the guy that
I know,
created all the medication.
It's too bad he gave that formula away.
Yeah, he wishes he hadn't. Have you seen the video that Rhonda made?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, where she talks to him.
It's unbelievable.
And he tried that medication on himself to test it.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of doctors did in the old days. They themselves.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
You couldn't do that now.
Yeah. So how's the weather out there?
We're coming into spring now, so it's starting to get nice.
Did you have a hard winter?
We always have a wet winter.
A wet winter, yeah. Ours was warm. We have global warming here. We love it.
Wait, did you get snow?
yeah, we got snow. I live downtown, so it doesn't accumulate as much. But yeah, we had a pretty steady stream of snow this winter. Yeah.
Did you ever used to go skiing or anything? I just presume most
Well,
Canadians
when I
ski.
was little, I would skate. I came from Chicago, which is in its own way colder than Ottawa. I grew up on Lake Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And so we used to skate and swim, and we had a ball. It was a wonderful place to grow up. Yeah. And when I was younger, I used to skate. We have a 7-mile canal here, 7-kilometer canal. And my husband and I used to skate when we were younger. But now we don't want to break anything.
I would be too worried about breaking something now.
Yeah. How about you? Do you do sports? Or
yeah, I'm starting to again. I've just signed up with a personal trainer, and I'm actually training for the, there's a thing called the Transplant Olympics.
Oh my goodness.
So it's basically, it's like the Olympic Games for, transplant patients.
Where will it be held?
Well, they have a competition in every single country, like an in-house competition. But in the UK, if you're good enough and you do well in the UK, you can qualify for the team that goes around the world. And the next World Championships in 2022 in Australia.
Oh my God, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so the goal is to hopefully go.
Which sport will you train for?
I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm training for running because I used to really like running events. But I'm hoping to meet some people on the transplant team and maybe join some of the team events. There's basketball and a few other things.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's wonderful. Okay, well, we'll be watching for your competitions and your success. Yeah.
And have you had many Wilson's disease patients reach out to you?
Another gal named Linda reached out to me, but basically not, we're all keeping to ourselves. We talk online, on the Wilson Sports site, but no, not really. No, I'm pretty alone here in Canada.
I was going to say, do you know any other Wilson's disease patients in Canada?
Oh yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, if you go online, you go to the Wilson's what's it called? The site. Anyways, there's a Canadian site.
Yeah.
There are a couple in Ontario. I think there's some in Toronto. There's one in Manitoba. There's some in Alberta, BC. There's one in Newfoundland. We were corresponding for a little bit, but most of us were going on with our lives. If we're healthy, there's really nothing to talk about, so we don't talk. It's good. As I said, I don't like to dwell on it too much because then you start getting gloomy.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm the same. Try and keep every day as normal as possible.
Yeah. Do you live alone, or are you living with roommates, or are you with
I live alone. I have a dog who has been sat down at the table the whole time trying to get my attention.
Great. What's the dog's name?
Molly.
Molly, that's a good name.
Yeah, I've not had her very long, but she's come from a friend's house, so she knows me, and she's looking at me now because I've said her name.
Great.
Getting up to her dinner time.
I always tell my husband that if he goes before me, I'm getting a dog. I'm not replacing him.
What kind of dog would you go for?
Oh, something like a husky, a big dog.
Oh yeah, nice. They'd be all right in Canada as well because of the cold weather.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, Jamie. So
Well, thank you very much, Linda.
Okay, Danny. Well, I look forward to seeing our discussion online.
Yeah, it'll be up in a few weeks.
Yeah, so you'll. I hope you stay healthy and you get to do the Olympics, the Transplant Olympics.
Yeah.
Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, okay? Definitely. I'll hopefully see you on some more of the Wilson's disease chats that we go on.
Okay, well, you can call me anytime.
Yeah,
okay?
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
So nice talking to you, Danny. Have a good spring. Okay?
Yeah, you too. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.